Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting out of Kingsland, Texas, USA. And in respect to Tish B'Av, we will have no intro music or exit music. But I want to thank you all for tuning in. And you've definitely picked a hot night to view, because tonight, episode 24 with Rabbi Chaim Coffman will be on racism in the Bible. So coming to you from the Holy Land, Rabbi Chaim Coffman. Rabbi, welcome back to the show. It's good to see you again. Sorry it's been so long since we've got to see each other, but here we are.
It's always good to be here. Hope the system's holding up. So we've had a good break for me, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's been a break for sure. I'm not sure I'm liking this every other week thing, but I will say that for the past 2 years almost that we've been recording the show, every week, Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday, for the past 2 solid years, I've been AWOL from my family. Mm-hmm. And now that I've actually got those Sunday, Monday, and Wednesdays back, I'm getting a lot of things done that I totally have just gotten out of hand. So this is definitely a good time for recovery, if you want to call it that, for me and my wife for sure. Okay, let's see what's going on here. I see a red flag here. I want to make sure we're still recording. Man, this thing kicked me off of Facebook again. I'm trying to do Facebook Live, and apparently the amount of bandwidth that I need to actually stream has to be a certain amount before I can record in 2 places. And I'm recording live in YouTube, which looks to be still connected, which is good. But apparently it's just not doing too good for Facebook for some reason. I'm thinking that there's like these little slips in the connection, and all it takes is like a little flash of light, just a nanosecond of being disconnected from the internet, and it kicks me off of Facebook. So right now I'm watching, and I see it says it's not broadcasting, but I'm watching the video and it's still broadcasting. So I don't really understand that. I think it's because it's saying it's not going on Facebook. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm waiting to see my latest expression to see if I still remain connected. If it does, and this is actually a Facebook signal, it's showing me, not a YouTube thing. So, okay, cool. So we're still connected on.
I guess you can't see me in more than one dimension, so.
I know.
That's the way it goes.
Right. That's funny. So anyway, so tonight we're going to cover as much as we can regarding racism. And for the rest of the show, I'm going to be monitoring the YouTube page just to make sure we're connected there, because I'm getting false readings. Because according to my Wirecast software, it's saying I'm not connected, but I'm watching it on YouTube Live. So as long as we're good there, then we can continue on. So with that said, we'll get moving on. I'll tell you what kind of prompted this whole idea in general. Something I've dealt with for years, even when I was in high school. Racism. I mean, there was one of my best friends actually in high school was a black guy. His name was Trevor Howard, I think it was the last name. We played football together, and we were best friends. Well, not best friends. We were good friends in school. And then I had to move. What's really funny, I only moved across town, but the town had 2 high schools, right? Well, I moved in the opponent's section, so 2 best friends that were playing football together in high school all of a sudden were opponents in high school, and that was not fun. It was really weird. But I heard a lot of interesting stories from him about racism and about how things are different for him in a lot of culture, in a lot of settings. We've all seen the movies with the KKK and with all this other stuff where they will look anybody who's not white, mainly for black people, and they will, kill them, and they'll burn them on a wooden cross and all this other stuff. I mean, all these crazy ideas of racism. And what people want to know is, what is the Bible's view on racism in that regard? Not in, because we all know the stories, Rabbi, that make their way through the Bible regarding, don't intermarry from one tribe to another. Don't go and let your sons and daughters marry people from foreign nations. And, culture today, the media today would paint that as the racist. You know what I mean? So,
right.
But what I'm talking about is, and what you and I both know that we're talking about, is blatant racism. Like right now, there's a lot of people who really, a lot of colored people, black people, who can't stand white people. there's a lot of white people
Mm-hmm.
or people who are just not black who actually don't want to have anything to do with black people. And I can honestly testify and say right now I'm not racist, and I can prove it just by showing you my daughter and my son-in-law. My daughter is Spanish, and my son-in-law is actually black. So, for all you people who thought I was racist, haha, the joke's on you. Okay, anyway, so
I'm not coming to your family for dinner.
oh, really? Okay. So that's what we're covering. We're gonna first start there. We want to see, does the Bible promote racism the way America knows racism today? And I have to clarify it that way because just like slavery, people think slavery in the Bible was the same way as American understood slavery, with white people enslaving black people, but that's not what the slavery in the Bible was at all, not even close. So, with that said, let's go ahead and start with that. What's the Bible's view on people who are racist? Does it say good job, or does it say, wait a minute, what are you racist for? You can't do that. You can't treat people that way. Tell me what you think.
Okay, so when we look at what the Torah says, some people will claim that the Torah may have an image issue because the Torah is against all kinds of things, right? Immorality, the Torah is against, idolatry, the Torah is against homosexuality, the Torah is against, all these different things. And, if God's the one who actually wrote it, passed it down to Moshe, so the entire book is coming from him. If the entire book is coming from him, then yeah, we may have an image problem. But when you look at all these different things, you mentioned about slavery, and
right.
We may get into that a little bit. Slavery is totally different. The way we look at it, just one aspect. Somebody stole, got caught for stealing, they had to sell themselves, to another family, but and to be really rehabilitated. So the rehabilitation, was all about how to properly act, and how to fix themselves up, so to speak. You couldn't abuse them, you couldn't make them, clean a toilet with a toothbrush. I mean, there are all kinds of things. Right. You had to show proper respect for your slave. So that being said, slavery is not the same, it's not the same idea. It's not the same idea by any stretch. Right. I mean, the Torah goes so far to say that, a person's not allowed to take revenge, and a person's not allowed to be prejudiced. If you go to somebody and you ask them, can I borrow your lawnmower? And they say no. And then the next day they say, can I borrow your hedge clippers? And you say, I wouldn't give you my hedge clippers because you wouldn't give me that. I wanted to borrow your lawnmower, you wouldn't give it to me, so I won't let you borrow anything, right? So you're bearing a grudge, against somebody else.
Right.
Now, bearing a grudge and holding it in because someone did something wrong, right? That is totally forbidden. So,
right.
The Torah itself, is about character development. It's all about working on, different bad qualities or bad character traits, that a person has. And God says, well, I don't care if you're inclined to it or not, it is forbidden. But, if a person's lawn is like, looks like the jungle, and, your lawnmower is busted or whatever, and, you go to your neighbor and say, can I borrow it? And he says, no. Well, you're going to be pretty upset.
Right.
Doesn't matter why he won't lend it to you. Of course you'll be ticked off because, it's like you're living in the jungle. So,
right.
You got no hedge clippers, you got nothing to do. And what do you do? You start speaking badly against them, you badmouth them, and then, you may call them names or all kinds of things, which, one thing can certainly lead to another. But the Torah nips it in the bud, and the Torah says, the book of Leviticus, don't do it, right? You're not allowed to take revenge. You're not allowed to be prejudiced. Now, when you look at different stories, someone asked the question, the whole story with Yishmael, why the Torah doesn't go through Yishmael, only goes through Yitzhak. All these different things, that we see. There's, maybe we're against the Arabs today because of that. But when you look deeper in what's going on, and what God wants to pass down and how he wants to do it, he's the one calling the shots. So people will say, the Torah is racist, the Torah is against, Torah is against the Arabs, the Torah is against, homosexuals, the Torah is against all these different things. But, so you're questioning basically how God runs the world. And you say, well, this can't be true. Would a just God, if God is all good and God represents all goodness, how in the world can it be that he'll allow this to happen? Look at, look at Samuel 1, chapter 15, the story of King Saul and the command by Samuel the prophet to wipe out the Amalekites, right? He doesn't wipe out all of them, right? He leaves the king, and he leaves the best of the flock so he can sacrifice that. And he thought he did the right thing, and Samuel the prophet, came and told him basically you blew it, and the king who he left alive shacked up with somebody, had the woman got
had
pregnant,
a baby, right?
And look, generations later, in the story of the book of Esther, comes Mr. Haman himself.
Yep.
So people say, how doesn't God know better? Of course God knows better. But when you look at it at face value, you say, wow, what a terrible thing. He's going to wipe out all these people, right? He's going to wipe out this entire nation. Well, doesn't God know what's good for us? So the problem is, we look at it, in the 21st century, say, that's terrible. What did the Amalekites ever do to deserve that? They did a lot. We're still facing the wrath, of the Amalekites in every generation. Many hold, during the Holocaust, the Germans, no question about it, they're offshoots of the Amalekites. So you left one alive. And what this person did and how it came about throughout history, obviously God knows better. I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu, give another example. There's a medrash that says that when the Egyptians are, putting babies in the mortar, in the bricks, and building walls, and Moshe Rabbeinu says, I'm going to save this child. God says, no, don't do it. It's a bad idea. Moshe says, I want to do it anyway. Saves the child, and that child became one of the worst wicked kings in the world, for the Jewish people. So obviously God knows better. But the way we look at things, and everything, as we always speak about, everything has to be seen in context.
Sure.
And if you don't see it in context, we're against the Amalekites, we're against this one, we're against that one, we're going to wipe out this one and the other. Of course it looks bad, right? But obviously, at the end of the day, if God understands and knows what he's doing, in the world, so then the only conclusion you could come up with is either God knows what he's doing, or the whole thing is totally messed up. But make no mistake, there is no room for saying, I think I'm better than someone else. That gets into the question, of the Jews being the chosen people, because isn't that racist? We think we're better.
Right.
We think we think we're better than everyone else. It has nothing to do with being better. We have more obligation. No nation in the world, when God goes to all the nations, nobody in the world wants to take on the mantle of what God wants for the world. Jewish people said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will hear, we will do. So therefore it didn't matter, it didn't matter what it was. Right? They said, we'll do whatever God tells us. And then all this, the Jews are at Mount Sinai. The Jews get the Torah. What does the word Sinai mean? It comes from the word Sina, hatred. The nations of the world hated the Jews because they got the Torah. Well, if you wanted the Torah, you could have had it. Because you didn't want it, now that gives you the right to hate us? Why is that right? It says, well, you're now chosen. Chosen, that's also a tremendous misnomer, because chosen doesn't mean better. Now, there will be Jews out there, and this is totally wrong, whether they're religious or not, and they'll say we're going to hang out with Jews because it's like the fraternity to be with. We don't be with non-Jews. Why would we want to be with non-Jews? We want to stick to ourselves. But the Torah says you stick to yourselves, and you separate yourselves because you have a higher purpose. You got to keep kosher, you got to keep Shabbos, you got to keep the holidays. It has nothing to do with hating non-Jews per se, right? It's about being separate, setting up boundaries. Right now, the Jewish anti-Semites and the non-Jewish anti-Semites will say the same thing. Just like Haman said in the book of Esther, there's a nation, it's separate, they separate themselves from us. They don't want to, they have different holidays, they won't eat the same food, they won't do all these things that we do. Yeah, that's understood because God wants us to be separate. It has nothing to do with thinking that, we're on a much higher level, we're so much better, we do, all these great things. Well, look at Jewish history. We haven't been whistling Dixie since the temple has been destroyed. I mean, I don't know how you whistle Dixie anyway, but in that sense, we're not thriving by any stretch. I mean, there's being more Torah learned today than in any generation, but there's 80%, 70%, assimilation rate, and the Jewish people are disappearing. So obviously, it's like a sine curve. You look through Tanakh, you read all the stories. Jewish people do the right thing, great, you're going to be at the top. You do the wrong thing, God's going to knock you off. There's nothing to do about being, about being better. Same thing. A Jew makes a blessing, blessings in the morning. He says, thank God I'm not a slave. Thank God I'm not a woman. I'm not a woman. So, people will say that, oh, look, that's so racist and all this. But look at the context. It's about mitzvah observance.
Sure.
Women have less mitzvahs to do. It has nothing to do with being inferior.
Right.
Right? There are different obligations between men and women. They're created differently. They're created, physiologically differently. So spiritually, there's a good chance that they're going to be different as well. That being the case, has nothing to do with, we think we're better. If it wasn't for the women, we wouldn't have been saved in Egypt. If it wasn't for women, they didn't give, for the sin of the golden calf. So it can't be racist. Everything has to be looked at.
Hey, I was joking earlier.
In its context.
Earlier I was joking, but realistically there is a connection to how people think, and that is like, hey, just because I don't like chocolate doesn't mean that I'm racist, right? Or just because I don't like white chocolate doesn't mean I'm racist. Okay, so but the point is, people will literally find any excuse to call, not people in general, but people who you usually hear the racist comment from, generally lean towards any opportunity they can to claim racism. One thing that I've noticed over the years is the same thing, is the people who are claiming racism, realistically, they don't realize, even within themselves, racism is not just about color. I want to clarify that. You could call it character profiling, for example. Am I racist because the neighbor down the street who happens to have white children, but they're thugs, right? They walk around with their, with their pants halfway down. They go around cussing and stuff. But they're not a different color, but they're a different class of people. Am I racist because of that? Am I character profiling? Is that the same thing as racism? But people don't realize that there's a lot of similarities there. So, I mean, I don't know.
Anyone who's different from you, even if you're a Jew.
Oh yeah, totally. Right on.
Two of my daughters were just in the States, and they could have fallen off, a totally different planet, because the way secular Jews, look at them, they have no connection. Right. They have no connection to their history, and they'll say things that, maybe in joking, maybe, they feel, they feel awkward, and, they think it's a cult, they think it's this, but when they start making comments, I'm not going to say they're necessarily so clean or whatever, but, they claim to be the most open-minded people.
Right.
At least till their brains fall on the floor. But they'll claim to be so open-minded, and I'm so closed-minded. I mean, I am closed-minded. That's true, because that's what the Torah is.
Yeah.
But right. But at the end of the day, when they start saying, "Oh, you people this and you people that," well, you're also a Jew, right? Yeah. So you can have inherent, racism, from within, because what we represent. They feel bad. Sure, just watch any Woody Allen movie and how he portrays Jews. Right. It's a negative stereotype.
Let me throw this out there.
A lot of times.
Let me throw this out there. You said something earlier. Lori Cash, love you, sis. You're awesome. She's a faithful viewer and supporter to Knock Talk. But she said, thank God, thank you, Lord, that I am a female. I get to grow my hair long and wear pretty clothes. I love it. That's awesome. My wife would totally agree with you, so would all my daughters. That's amazing.
I love to grow my hair long, but it's just not going to happen. So, I'm vertically challenged.
Hey,
I'm hair challenged.
You got this little,
that's the way it is.
You got this mohawk thing happening, and I love it. That's how if I ever saw a caricature of a rabbi with a mohawk, I would say that's got got to be Rabbi Coffman. He's like one of my favorites.
I tell my kids, this is a watermelon. It's eventually going to grow. So they're like, yeah, you've been telling me this for like 15 years, and it's still the same. So I just don't. It's a good thing. I'm further away from the camera because if it was sunny, I'd blind everybody. So
oh my gosh.
just
that's funny.
That's just the reality. But we just brought up an interesting point.
Right.
Not about being a woman, but
sure.
About this idea. It's uncanny the way Jews will react to other Jews, and if they're different and they look different and they act different, well, you're just a weirdo. And you're just
exactly.
you're just strange.
Right.
But keep in mind, up until 250 years ago, everybody was like me. Everybody was Orthodox. They had all these splinter groups,
True.
Coming out. So the only thing is, it just got, so watered down. But that's how far, away, from the reality, from, Torah, true Judaism, that people are. But they'll claim, they're like, oh, I sent my kids to college, to university, they watch TV, they do other things. We're so open-minded. I said, of course you're so open-minded, but would you ever, person asked me, they said, you're so closed-minded, you wouldn't send your kids to university, and all this and all that. So I said, first of all, show me someone who's gone to university and come out more moral, after they've gone in.
Yeah.
But I said, let's say I would agree with you. I'll send my kids to university. I said, you send your 2 boys to yeshiva. And they go, oh, I would never do that. I would never do that. I said, why not? I said, you're so open-minded. You want me to send my kids to a cesspool. I said, you send your kids to yeshiva. Oh no, it's a college. They'll be brainwashed. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Right.
That's where the conversation, begins, and ends. But it's there. People are afraid of the unknown because someone will look at me and say, "Wow, you grew up normal. What happened?" I said, "Well, still trying to figure out who my parents are." I would always ask, "You sure I wasn't adopted? Sure the milkman wasn't, had a connection over here?" But someone who comes back, other people looking at them and rejecting their values. I mean, that's essentially what it is in many ways. And they'll think it's the strangest thing, and they'll start saying all kinds of things. But when you try and defend it, you're a racist, you're this, you're, you're against homosexuals, you're, against all these different things. And it comes from 100% of a lack of understanding, certainly sensitivity. Sensitivity goes out the door. I could spend the next 5 shows just just saying what people have said to me, as I was going through different stages. Actually, would probably be kind of funny in different ways. But, at the end of the day, you try and defend yourself and people go ballistic.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, that's terrible. And look what this says. And look what that. So we have an image problem. That may be true, but, at the end of the day, as I always say, is the Torah true? Or is it not true? Did God speak to Moshe, pass it down? Or is it fantasy? That's really the bottom line. And then you take it, then you can deal with some of the issues. But you certainly can't have your biases, and try and put all your 21st century, biases on something that's been the best, this book has been the bestseller for, forever. And it has to be understood. But when you look at these things, outside of context, of course it looks bad. We never look good. But, we're not necessarily supposed to. We hold by the word of God, and we do what God wants us to do.
Right. 855-952-4253. The phone lines are open. I know somebody has to have a question regarding racism of some kind. I mean, is it okay? Does Torah permit my dark brown kitty to not like the white kitty next door? I don't know. Come up with your own questions, but I'm telling you, this is.
If it was in Israel, the cats hate each other and they live in garbage cans and they're not pets. So that's.
Hey, I just learned
they would kill any dog, around the area, no question about it.
I just learned from my sweet dear friend and future rabbi, Ira Michelson, that technically Israel is like the cat capital of the world. There's more cats per square block in Israel than there pretty much is anywhere. And that only really pushed my wife over the edge. She definitely wants to move to Israel now. So
well, when you walk by a garbage can, one of these big garbage things, you see a cat jump out. Not so sure. I think that mentality will change.
Well, in Chicago, the cats that jump out of garbage cans are actually raccoons and possums. So I'm pretty sure she would prefer the kitty cat type. So.
Uh-huh.
Oh wow. Okay, so so I don't see any questions popping up. Let me keep. Are you watching the YouTube channel? Do you have access to that?
Nope.
Okay, I will do my best here then. So let me see what I've got here, because I don't want to move on unless we've got it all covered. Especially, okay, give me 1 second. Okay, I do have a question for you. This is not from the YouTube chat, but this is something that I've experienced over the past couple of years with Tanakh Talk on YouTube. There's people, and this is my feeling this is just a feeling I'm getting. There are there are European Jews, there's black Jews, whatever the case may be, and I've talked to a few. The few that I have talked to have their feelings hurt, in the sense that, and I understand it. I've actually heard one person say that they believe that the black Jew is the legitimate Jew, and all these white Jews living in New York and and Israel are imposters. What do you say to that?
Well, I think that's reverse racism.
Sure.
The question really is, a lot of these black Jews, especially especially in Dimona here in Israel and other places. Well, we did these shows on oral traditions, so I got attacked certainly by one of them, and they don't hold by oral tradition. Many of them, they just sort of do their own thing, and they think they're descendant or whatever. But there's a clear hierarchy in what the Talmud says and what the rabbis tell us, in all that. So, it's not about, we think we're better, or anything else. It's about,
right.
Do you have a legitimate claim? Do you have a claim that is going to hold water?
Sure.
It has nothing to do with skin color. I get this question a lot about the tribes, and we're descended. I get people contacting me saying think we're descended from this tribe and that tribe. Well, nobody knows until the Messiah comes. The only people that know are someone who's a Kohen or a Levi, that they come from the tribe of Levi. Like, that's it. So like someone asked me, they're like, well, how do we know? I said, well, your father would have told you. I said, well, what if you didn't know? I said, this is something that's like passed down, so people know. Sometimes it can get lost, but in general, in general, people know. So they'll make these claims. I mean, these claims are based on, what are they based on? They want to show that, they have a power, they have a right, they can, they can jump in the fray. So what's that any different than any non-Jew? You want to show you have proof, that your mother was Jewish or your grandmother was Jewish on your mother's side, and you get adequate proof, we'll consider you a Jew. If you don't have adequate proof, then you're going to have to convert. But if you don't prove it down the line, it has nothing to do with skin color. It doesn't matter if you're black, you're Chinese, you're Mexican, whatever it is. It has nothing to do with anything.
Right.
Either you fit the criteria, either you fit it or you don't. It's like, you're a little bit pregnant. No, either you are or you're not. Like, that's just, that's just
funny.
pretty obvious. But, you want to talk about, a hot topic. There has been a schism, certainly here in Israel since the founding of the state, between Ashkenazim and Sephardim. Where the Sephardic people will claim tremendous amount of discrimination, here in Israel, from the Ashkenazim, and there is truth to that. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying I advocate it.
Sure.
I'm just saying that there is a reality. I mean, anyone who's gone through the conversion process, you move into a Jewish community. I mean, there's also another aspect, of the topic, to move into a Jewish community, and or you want to try and get into a Jewish community. No one's willing to help you. No one's rolling out the red carpet. They'll give you the cold shoulder. They'll make it extremely difficult for you to convert. And people will hear all kinds of things, even from Jews within the community. So, most people know the questions I'll never answer is, why did this person say this to me? And this person's a rabbi. And why did he do this? And why did he do that? I'm like, how do I know? I'm not going to answer for someone else. Why are people fat? Why do they smoke? It's not my problem. Go ask them. I saw an Orthodox Jew in a casino. Don't you say that's forbidden? I said, of course it's forbidden. He said, what are they doing there? I have to answer for myself. I'm not answering for someone who's in a casino. So, is it, people will say, even after they convert, it's hard to get the kids into schools. It's hard to marry off my children. People are leery. There's a reality.
Right.
There is a reality. I'm not saying I agree with it, right? But people, I'm not saying everybody encounters it, but people definitely do. One of the videos I have on my YouTube channel about pitfalls in conversion, this is one of the things I bring out. Don't think the Jewish community is just going to wrap their hands around you and say, we're so glad you're here. Please come in. We'll do whatever we can to help. That's certainly not the case.
Right.
I mean, eventually, somebody who's passed the bar and they show that they're the real deal, they have to be helped or whatever, but at the end of the day, people will say, we're second-class citizens. Again, I'm not going to say that's right, but at the same time, unfortunately, that may be true. In different ways. So, we have to, we have plenty what to work on, certainly ourselves, but, I get this quite a bit, and, people are tremendously offended by it. And the only thing I tell people, or one of the things I tell people, is keep in mind that non-Jews have given, converts have given, Jews a bad name throughout the millennia for a lot of different things.
Right.
So the fact that someone wants to convert and they want to show that they're the real deal, it's kind of crazy. Like, you want to look like me? I have this mohawk? I mean, come on. Who wants to take on like all these laws, a lot of them that don't make any sense?
Yeah.
Well, maybe you have an ulterior motive. Maybe there are other things you want to accomplish by doing this. Maybe your spouse is Jewish, maybe, any number of things. So, a person has to get down to the nitty gritty of why a person wants to go through it. It has nothing to do with, we hate non-Jews and, they should be stuck on their buses and all that. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that you want to come, you want to join, there's criteria, but don't expect, because of past history of what's going on, with converts, etc. Don't think everyone's going to roll out the red carpet and that you deserve it. That is certainly not the case. You're going to have to prove it. Again, if it goes beyond and people say things and do things, that are totally wrong, I agree, it's forbidden. But I'm not going to answer why people do it. People do all kinds of things. It definitely doesn't make it right. It definitely doesn't make it right. But at the same time, people feel bad. And people just keep getting knocked down. Unfortunately, that's part of the reality. Someone going through this process, you want to have it worse, be a Noahide. You don't fit in anywhere. You don't fit in with the Christians. You don't fit in with the Jews. Jews don't want you, etc.
Okay, so let me put this out here. So basically, what you're saying is, Torah forbids racism the way America knows racism, right? You can't profile somebody by color and say that they're evil.
Right.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Clear. Very good. Thank you. Okay. So let's move on to different aspects of racism, and I'm gonna let you tell me these topics coming up, because that's the only one that because I'm obviously here in America, that's the only one I'm used to. So, what other aspects of racism do we deal with, even in America or across country, internationally, that a lot of people maybe are unaware of?
One would be potentially, let's say you have a family that is FFB. We'll call them from birth, right? They grow up religious, generations. They are religious. They want to find a match for one of their kids, boy or a girl, right? For instance, and someone proposes a match, with somebody whose parents weren't religious, right? Take someone like me, right? Like I got kids marriageable age, and there will be families that will say, because of family purity laws, we want to go back 3 generations. No matter how religious you are, it doesn't matter who your rabbi is or whatever, your kids will never marry my kids. Now, that's a reality. There are many families that want to have proper, genealogy, that goes way back, and there's no break, right? In other words, there's no break, within family purity laws. Now, in a certain way, I could take a look at that and say, well, it's not fair. I sit and learn, I do this, I do that. You want to look down upon, my kids have done nothing, except that they're my kids. So, I mean, that might be a different issue, but they've done nothing to deserve to be discriminated against, but that's a reality. I understand where it comes from. I don't look at it saying, oh, look at this racist idea, but people could certainly take it and say, that's a terrible, that's a terrible thing. Converts no different.
Sure.
I say, wow, what a great, someone told me many years ago when I was in America about, a lot of things I do, with converts, whatever, such a great thing. What a tremendous marriage you have. I said, you want one of your kids to marry one of my students? I'm like, oh no, I didn't say that. It's good what you do, just, keep everybody separate. Right. So, there is that, that's part of, that's also part of, part of the reality. And there will be converts who won't, unless they obviously, look different or whatever, they won't tell people. They won't tell people, that they converted for obvious reasons. They say, well, that's a tragic thing. It's a terrible thing. It may be, but, it comes from within and from without.
Right. Okay, let's take this caller. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell me your name, where you're calling from.
Hey, Jay from Alabama.
Jay, my man, how are you? Good to hear your voice.
Pretty good.
Good. What's going on? What's the question for Rabbi?
Was Moses' wife black?
That's a really good question. She was definitely not Jew, right? She was of a
right.
foreign.
Right. She came from Cush. Cush means that they were dark skinned.
Okay.
So
meaning that it seems that she was definitely black.
She was definitely black. Yes. So yeah, that's good to know.
So is interracial marriage okay?
I mean, why not? I mean,
so
if let's say there's a non-Jew that converts that's black, or there's a you have the Ethiopians, that are that are Jewish, there shouldn't be an issue. Why,
Now,
it may be a different type of issue, but it's certainly not forbidden to marry them. It's not, it's no.
Now here's
no
the
issue.
thing.
Someone say, I would never marry them because they're black. Yeah, that's racist.
Okay, so
that's for sure.
Rabbi, correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time Moses was married to Tzipporah, she was a black woman, but Torah hadn't actually been given yet. So even if Torah did later forbid, and which it did, is marrying outside the tribe, and usually if you think inside the tribe, most people are probably going to be the same color. But the fact that he married her outside of Torah, previous to Torah, there's other things that happen throughout the chronology of the Bible. Like, for example, Yaakov had two brides, right? So that was also, but the thing is, so using that concept, things that happen like pre-Torah in the sense of the laws would have been, it's like, okay, don't do it again, sort of a thing. But so using that concept,
well, keep in mind,
listen,
Cain and Abel, are born, and the question is, who did they marry, right? So the Medrash says they were born with twins, right?
Okay.
Twin sisters.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
So they married
opposites.
the sister, right? Save a lot of money, just invite one side of the family to the wedding, right? So so they married their sisters. Obviously, after the Torah was given, that's
right.
That's going to be forbidden. But keep in mind all these different things. This is what God wanted and how He orchestrated it. I mean, you have the story with Tamar and Yehuda, a father-in-law and a daughter-in-law, which became forbidden, after the Torah was being given. But that's where kingship comes from, the story of Lot and his daughters. Right? There's incest, and out from Lot comes Moab. Right? Moab from my father. From Moab comes Ruth. From Ruth comes King David.
Right.
So obviously there are other things going on.
Okay.
That was allowed to happen in order for God orchestrated that should happen that way for different reasons.
Okay, but let's go backwards now, because I've still got Jay on the line, and I'm pretty sure this question is not ended yet. For example, with Yaakov, right? So the Torah states that you cannot marry a woman and her sister, right, while they were both alive or whatever the case may be.
Right.
But Jacob did, right? So, and we all know that Rachel, she had died outside the land. So Leah was so
No,
whenever
she died coming in. When
yeah,
they
yeah.
came into Eretz
But the
Yisrael,
point
she died.
is, by the time Jacob got there, he only had one wife, right? So with
Right.
that said, going back to Jay's question, is it permitted for intermarriage of interracial marriages? Now, according to Torah, you're not supposed to marry without outside your tribe. Who is that commandment for? Is that just a Levite? Is it just a Cohen, or is it like the entire Jewish people? Who is that commandment given to?
When you mention about marrying within within the tribe, you see that the tribe of Benjamin,
Right.
Of Benjamin almost got wiped off the face of the map. They're allowed to come back in, and they was allowed to marry in when it comes to the Kohanim, all right, the priests, the priests have specific people that they're allowed to marry. Certainly by the high priest, right? The high priest cannot marry a divorcee.
Right.
That he cannot marry.
He's got to
someone
marry
who's been with
specifically
somebody
a
else.
virgin. He has to marry a virgin.
Right. So a regular Kohen, he doesn't have to marry necessarily a virgin, but he can't
Right.
marry someone who's considered a zona. A zona will just translate as someone who's like promiscuous or has been, with other people.
Right.
So they're only allowed to marry certain people. A Levite can marry whoever he wants. It's not
Okay.
that's not an issue. A woman who's a Kohen, right, who her father is a Kohen, right, she can marry anybody she wants, right? She's got the status of the daughter of a Kohen, but she can basically marry, anybody, anybody she wants. Anybody else, we don't know which tribe we're part of anyway now. So anybody else can marry anybody, from seemingly any other tribe. It won't matter unless there are other criteria that would be,
Okay.
that would be forbidden.
Okay. Let's back up again. I want to really nail this down. So, pre-Torah, interracial marriages, and correct me if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, tell me why. Pre-Torah, pre the giving of the law at Mount Sinai, at Har Sinai, pre-Torah,
Right.
it was okay. Well, not okay, but it happened that interracial marriages took place. Okay, post-Torah,
You mean
interracial.
inter-tribe marriages? That's what you're talking about?
No, the question, and correct me if I'm wrong also, Jay from Alabama, your question was interracial marriages, right?
Yeah, see, I'm attracted to every race of women myself, so
Same
is it
here.
okay?
Oh, yeah, I am too. But, yeah, so the point being, the question I'm kind of imposing, which I'm asking Jay for clarification, is before Torah was given, it happened, right? But there were things that happened before Torah. Torah came along, and Hashem resolved those things so they wouldn't be in violation. So now that Torah has been given, is it still acceptable for interracial marriages amongst the Jewish people?
Why should it be a problem? Doesn't seem like it should be a problem at all.
Okay. Well, hey, that's why we're asking you.
If a person wants to marry someone of a different color, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
As long as they fit the criteria that it's permissible to marry them, then it doesn't really matter where they come from.
Okay, let me ask you a different question then. So let's say within the tribe of Benjamin or Reuben or Judah, whatever the case may be, was it common that you had different colored skin within one tribe?
I don't know. I can't answer that. I'm not sure. I don't know.
If you could speculate,
I don't know if that matters. I don't know why that matters.
Because we're asking about interracial marriages. We're literally asking about, can a white person marry a black person? Can a Japanese marry a Spanish person? Was it common or was it known?
Certainly, according to the Torah, after it's given, there's no question that's permissible, right?
Tell me why. Tell me how. Where's the scripture or where is the ruling?
Why in the world should it be
I
forbidden?
just told you, because it says the Torah lays out you're not supposed to be marrying outside your tribe, and so if you can marry
But we
within
don't
your
know who
tribe,
anybody in the tribes are. No one knows what their tribe is today.
that's my
The Messiah is
point.
going to come.
But
the Messiah is going to come.
let me ask
He's
you.
going to tell everyone.
Okay.
He's going to say, "Oh, you had to get divorced because you married someone outside the tribe." That doesn't make any sense.
No, but here's the thing. Tell me how common. Just if you were to speculate, speculation only. Would it have been possible if the tribes had been so pure from day one and they kept the way they were supposed to be? What's the chances of having different colored people within one tribe in biblical times? What are the chances? That's the question.
They're probably pretty high. I mean,
Really?
I don't
That they
see
would be
why
different?
Tribes wouldn't intermarry.
Okay.
They wouldn't intermarry between themselves.
Okay.
So if you had somebody in the tribe that was more dark skinned or whatever, could you have dark skinned kids? 100%. I don't. That's not a.
Because see,
that's not a contradiction. They're not intermarrying, for the sake because, of bloodline, or whatever. That
right.
was,
right.
that didn't seem to be, such an issue.
Okay. So my brain struggles with this, and Jay probably as well. I'm assuming, because I think to myself, you have two black people can't produce a white child. Two white
Right.
people can't produce a black child. So how is it that if the races or the tribes were kept pure from the beginning, how could they have different colored children? And if that's true, and if my presumption is correct, then how is it that Torah would allow interracial marriages amongst Jews if color was almost like a visual sign of you're not the right tribe, right? And if Torah forbids intermarrying in different tribes, which it does, if I'm not mistaken, correct? You are to keep marriage within your tribe, right?
I don't know if that's true.
That may be my error then. Maybe that's the thing that I need clarification on.
I don't think that's true. I
Oh,
don't think
okay.
I don't
That-
think you just had to marry. The only question again.
That
the
helps.
only question of the tribe, is going to be, when it comes to a Kohen. Right?
Okay.
When it comes to a Kohen,
Perfect. Okay, good.
or
Good.
or the high priest.
I feel like I just kicked Jay to the curb. Jay, are you still with us?
Yeah.
Good. Are we addressing your question very thoroughly?
Yeah, the rabbi said it's okay, right? I'm going with that.
Yes. I'm going with that too, man. Hey, let's go and disconnect in case somebody else is trying to call in. Jay, thank you for calling in, my brother.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, shalom. Bye-bye. Okay, go ahead, Rabbi.
All right. So the point is, any person can marry anyone of any other tribe except in the case of a Kohen.
See,
the Kohen,
that
either
was
a
my
regular
original
Kohen
question.
Or the high priest.
That was my original question. Was that specifically through the Kohanim only, or was that a general comment for all the tribes?
No. That was only through the
Got
through the Kohanim. It wasn't through everybody else.
Good to know. That's perfect. Good.
I mean, you could have Levites marrying each other, right?
Okay.
Or marrying non-Levites. That's not a problem.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that. That's good.
A regular Kohen or the high priest, that you're going to definitely have an issue. That's for sure.
Right. Cool. That makes
and that carries down to today. It's not, it's just it's a different status of what the Kohen is. So therefore, that's going to carry on today. A Kohen cannot just marry anybody he wants. So they have to fit certain certain criteria. Everybody else shouldn't be a problem.
Okay.
I don't see why it should be a problem.
perfect. That's good. Okay, that was some really good, juicy questions. I can't believe more people aren't tuning in.
I mean,
right
there
now.
was one issue with the tribe of Benjamin that we mentioned.
Okay.
Right, and that eventually got nullified, because they're afraid the tribe was going to disappear. So they allowed them to come back, and it was permitted, to marry within the tribe of Benjamin. But before that, they could have been wiped out. But that was a different thing. It had nothing to do with bloodline. It's because of what they did with the what happened in Judges chapter 21. So because the whole story with the prostitute of Giva over there, and what the tribe of Benjamin did by carving her up and whatever. So it was a punishment for that. It had nothing to do with bloodline or being better or any of that. That was a specific thing. After that was taken care of, and they were afraid that that tribe is going to be wiped off the face of the map, then they brought him back. Then they brought him back in. It was permissible to marry them.
Okay, here's the deal. We have not had enough phone calls, so I'm switching topics, and we will carry on this topic in 2 weeks again. The topic will be divorce. Ezra chapter 10. I don't know why I'm thinking about that, but something you said made me think about divorce. Maybe because you didn't like the way my hair looked. I don't know what it was, but
I can't even see you're covered with a hat. Come on. I can't see anything. I don't even know I'm talking to anyone.
Okay.
Anybody there? Doo-doo-doo.
Okay, so I'm looking for Ezra chapter 10. I'm going to put it up on your screen in a minute. Yeah, of course, let's talk about just divorce in general. Divorce, according to Christianity, is a taboo. You can't do it. If you are, you've fallen far enough away from grace, as if you rejected Jesus in the sense of things. So, but in Ezra chapter 10, verse 1, there's a commandment there that God is, I think I'm in the right book. And now in the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord came to the mouth of Jeremiah, but that had to be fulfilled, that the Lord stirred up, blah, blah, blah. Let me go down here a little further. See. Okay. Let's see. Who is there among you of all his people? Let me scroll down. Verse 4. Okay, maybe I need to go further. Or I'm in the wrong book. Basically, where God says, tells the people to divorce their foreign wives. I know that's got to be Ezra 10, right? I'm pretty sure it is. Chief fathers, see, priestly vows. Give me a second. Come on now. Where are you? Let me just look it up Google-wise. I've got to be close because that's something that's been on my mind before. Let me see where that is. If you can enlighten me on to where that is ahead of time, that would be great. Okay, let's see what happens here. Yeah, Ezra 10:3. Oh, I must have skipped it. Okay, verse 10:3. Who is there among you of all of his people? His God be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Build the house of the Lord Israel. Wait, why does it say 10:3? Unless that's just a misnomer. Ezra 10:3. Send away. Am I in Ezra? Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm in Ezra 1. No wonder I can't find it. Let's try that again. Apparently there's a 0 after the 1. Okay, sorry about that. All right, let me find it again.
After 9, before 11.
Fortunately, there's only 10 there, so okay.
Right.
I was confused. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's in Ezra 10, and I was looking the wrong chapter. Okay, now therefore let us make a covenant with our God. Let me put it up on screen because a lot of people are going to say, "What? You're crazy! It does not say that." Okay.
What's a covenant?
Right. Let us make a covenant with our God to put away all the wives as such are born of them according to the counsel of my Lord and of those. Okay, just this whole idea of God commanding men to divorce their wives. Why did this happen? I kind of know, but I mean, you're going to teach everyone watching right now, and you're probably going to teach me something that I didn't know. Why would God command a divorce with the people, with the men of Israel, to do this? And how is divorce viewed in Judaism today, based on Torah and the oral Torah on halakha in general? What's the whole idea?
Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure exactly, exactly what the context there.
Okay.
In Ezra, it could be that, I think the context is that it's talking about pagan wives.
Right, that's what I was thinking too. Right.
So that would make perfect sense. Question is, why were they married to them?
To begin with, right.
Yeah, why were they married to them, to begin with? That would be...
Would this follow in the line of King Solomon, where he had married and they led him astray? Would it be like this type of a wife, right?
Well, in that case, so you have to look at the context. It said that he committed, idolatry or whatever, but it says because they, somewhat led him astray, it was as if, as if he did it. Whatever, different, potential reasons why he did it. Et cetera, but obviously, it doesn't seem like a good thing. So, if a person's married to someone, obviously someone who's a pagan, they're going to lead him astray. That's the whole point
sure.
of not not marrying, a non-Jew, they're gonna, have children. If they have children, they're gonna, go astray to idolatry. So that would be, that would be certainly, forbidden. So that would make sense why why would they divorce them? Though the question is, why are they married to them in the first place? I mean, but you do see that we saw by what happened with Bilam, right? With the evil prophet, non-Jewish prophet in Parshat Balak. At the end, where he finally, he tries to curse the Jewish people, is not successful. At the end, he's able to get 24,000 people, killed of the Jewish people because of these, non-Jewish women that got them to, to be with them and transgress idolatry and all that. So there was a plague that went out and 24,000 people, get killed. So that's certainly a terrible thing. So in general, when it comes to divorce, even in the Orthodox community, there is divorce. It's certainly not as high. There's no question about it. So, it's like, secular divorce is like 6-7 times higher, than in the Orthodox world. But, there is a command. There is definitely a command, that if it doesn't work between a man and a woman, then they have to get divorced. Even though the Talmud says that when a person gets divorced, God, there are tears that come down that go on the altar, because obviously God doesn't want to see marriages that are broken up. So within Judaism, 100%, for sure, there's an obligation to work on the marriage. Doesn't mean that if it doesn't work out, and you get help and it doesn't help and there is no other recourse but to get divorced, that's instituted in the Torah. That's Deuteronomy chapter 24, beginning of Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 1-4.
Okay.
Where a person has to give a bill of divorce. Right there, it is enacted in the Torah. If it was such a terrible thing and people shouldn't do it, it wouldn't be there.
Yeah, true.
Right? But obviously, there is there's a reality. And now, not getting into Kabbalah or anything else, but when a person gets married, he's connecting to the other half of his soul. So it could be that if a person, even if they're connected to the right person, and they don't, it's kind of like a plant. If you don't water it, right, the plant dies, right? This is, let's think about botany now. Botany 101. Take water, take a plant, put it in the sunlight, don't feed it water. What's going to happen? It's going to die, right? It's absolutely going to die. So a person can be married to the right person, at the same time, if you don't work on it, and, we've spoken before about, the idea and the institution of marriage, but if you don't work on it, and even if you get help and it doesn't help or whatever the case is, then there's an obligation to get divorced. And the Torah prescribes that is what you have to do. Okay, then, you have to divide up assets. You have to, the husband's got to pay alimony, like all these different things that he's obligated to do. It's never a good thing, right? Let's make that clear. It's never a good thing, but it's in the Torah for a reason.
It is
if
permissible.
It happens,
it's just not good.
Right. That's what has to happen. It's not like, the way the Christians look at, marital relations is also a terrible thing.
Yeah.
It's also, it's dirty, it's this, it's that, et cetera. We don't look at it, that way. It has to be harnessed, though, in the proper way. So if marriage goes according to the way it should, meaning, people have things in common, they're going to work together, et cetera, there's no guarantee that the marriage is going to stick, right? It's something that you have to work on, and there are many peaks and valleys,
right,
in a person's marriage. But, if a person, works on themselves and trains themselves and get trained by others, then there's no reason why a marriage shouldn't work. If it doesn't work, then they should get divorced.
Right. Very good. Okay, let's take this last question. We're going to call this the last question of the night. Caller, welcome to the show. Please tell me your name, where you're calling from.
Mason Molina from McAllen, Texas.
Mason, how are you, buddy? Good to hear you, man. What's the question?
Doing good.
What's the question for Rabbi?
I guess it's almost a rhetorical question, but
that's okay.
I guess would it be like, because I know there's a lot of talk about how maybe Jews can be racist towards non-Jews, but me personally, who I've come from a Christian background or whatever, or been led in by other false beliefs, I went to the Jews with false beliefs, and they were actually very helpful with me.
That's good. That's good.
All they've done is help me. And
Right.
I mean, my question is it just baseless hatred or most likely jealousy? Maybe where it comes from? The whole racist thing about calling Jews racist.
Right.
But I mean, even the local Chabad has been very kind with me, helping. Like when I want to buy kosher and I want to learn, I mean, I've had nothing but help. So my question is probably just baseless hatred, pretty much, that comes down to, or jealousy.
Right.
Because I have not experienced that with the Jews myself.
Well, I'm glad that you haven't. I've actually talked to a lot of people who have. And I know Rabbi Coffman has heard plenty of horror stories where people who lead in the Christian faith literally get slammed. Slammed is a little harsh, but literally get blatantly rejected and actually pushed away. Hammered. That's a different definition in America, by the way. But so I'm glad that you have not had that experience. But I do know people personally who actually have, and I understand.
Oh, wow.
I totally understand why they do. I mean, the thing is, I mean, this is a battle that's been going on for over 2,000 years, and so, Orthodox Judaism has not been kept pure by people who have just been casual. They're very dedicated to making sure that they filter properly to make sure that you don't have people. And now, the further along we go, Rabbi, you can probably agree or disagree, but there's more and more people who are infiltrating Judaism who are actually messianic. They will go as far as rejecting verbally, this whole Messiah figure, just so they can go through conversion, so they can feel like they're part of Israel. And so it's getting more and more. I have
heard of this too.
Right. Isn't it crazy? I mean, so you've got these, got this situations. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mason.
Yeah, but I guess that was just my question. I guess is, maybe sometimes it's just baseless hatred or like lack of understanding of the customs too.
Yeah.
I mean, how like they don't shake women's hands. Sometimes people think it's because they're racist.
Oh gosh, no.
Rabbis usually don't shake women's hands.
Right. Well, I mean, hey, I will tell you something, Rabbi Coffman too. One of my best friends on this earth is a guy by the name of Mordecai Mintz. His family is such a sweet, sweet Jewish family. His older brother is a rabbi. They meet once a week on a Skype call, and they do Torah studies weekly for years. His son is in yeshiva. Anyway, they paid for my wife and I and my children to go to a Jewish wedding, his one of his sons' Jewish wedding in Los Angeles. And of course, I'm totally naive to so many things, so many traditions and customs, and so here I am. We show up at the airport. We finally get to the hotel where they're fixing to have this wedding, and so I meet Mordecai's wife. But Mordecai wasn't there, and we hadn't talked. And the first thing I did was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you." I reached my hand out, and she kind of like looked at me like I had leprosy or something. And but not really so much. But I knew by the look she gave me.
I don't think it has anything to do with her being an Orthodox Jew. Maybe she just looked at you that way anyway.
But I found out later that probably within about 5 or 10 minutes, I found out that that it's Orthodox Jewish women don't shake hands with other men. It's just like it's very, to me, it's wonderful. I think it's amazing. I think it's a really awesome custom. But to say the least, I have experienced that myself, and now I've learned and I know better. But it was a good experience. It wasn't a bad one. It was a good one. So anyway, I wish I could say the same for her. Anyway, Mason, thank you so much for calling in, brother. I love you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Shalom. Okay. Bye-bye. All right, cool.
Yeah. So again, most people I deal with certainly have had negative experience. Doesn't mean you have to, but it's Murphy Stein's law that probably it's going to happen. So people should expect it if they have a good experience, and they don't have a bad experience. Okay, so then they're not part of the majority. I will say, there's one other thing you mentioned about, sticking your hand out or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was once in Boston, and actually I was at a mourner's house, and somebody was there, and whatever relative that was there, much older relative, and she went to give me a hug, and I sort of like,
stood back,
sort of like get out of the way. I tried not to embarrass them with whatever. It was very, it was very, very awkward. And then, of course, some other Jew says, "Oh, well, what's the big deal? Like, you're not gonna give her a hug. You're not gonna this, and she's so old and this and that. Like, what do you think's gonna happen?" So I took my lumps, and that was it. But, the Torah said you can't do it. you can't do it. You want to, try in the
Yeah.
best way possible. Try not to, not to, embarrass someone. So, for lack of a better word, we'll just call it spiritual cooties, and that's why it's not,
Right.
that's why it's not done. But that also, in a way, can bring, hatred from within, and that really doesn't matter because we have to uphold what the Torah says, and if they don't like it, that's too bad. But that's, there are certain things, certain things that we can do with the Torah. You just, you can't have your mind, your brain so open that your mind's so open that your brains fall on the floor. So, there are certain things we can't do. It doesn't matter if the person's old or, whatever. It's, either it's permitted or it's not. If it's not permitted, you're not allowed to do it. So
Right.
people don't like it, that's the way it is.
Right. I would like to just remind everybody that you guys can subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel and you want to actually get alerts, you have to go a little bit further, and you have to actually select. There's like a little, like a bell shape thing on there, which will subscribe to alerts. And so, anytime we go live, and if you're like on the road or something, and you subscribe to it, and you click that little bell to give you a reminder when something happens, it'll actually show up for you. And like every time I click record, you'll get a message sent to you, but you have to click that bell for some reason. And then also, just a reminder, also, Tanakh Talk is now on Roku. A lot of you people out of the country don't know what that is, but that's okay. But Roku, just look for Tanakh Talk Network on Roku. It's not just Tanakh Talk content that's there. You'll find other people's content there as well. So I believe we've got Rabbi Coffman, we got Rabbi Manny Friedman, we got Rabbi Michael Skovak, Tovia Singer, their own website stuff and all of their content from other sources. You'll find Jason and Jono on their spiritualbabies.net as well as truth2d.org. All those resources will be available through somewhere in there. So definitely check it out there. And Rabbi, I hope I'm not forgetting anything, but next 2 weeks from now, so Rabbi, your homework will be to come up with more divorce content. Hopefully not your own. Hush for someone. So
I'm going to divorce myself from you. We're done. It's over. I've had enough of getting up at 3 in the morning.
That's
Please.
funny. Yeah, you're dedicated, man, because by 8 o'clock, not 11, 12, what is it? That's 4 o'clock a.m., man. Your day starts early.
It's either called dedication or stupidity. It's one or the other. Nothing in between. We're extremists over here. That's the way it is.
There you go. Cool. Okay, so but anyway, so our schedule again for most of you who may not know, every other week, not every week, at least until we get in the studio, and it's going to be a little while. I've got to get the funds together to start the building project outside. If you want to contribute to that, you can just go to tanakhtalk.com, find the donate page, and you can send a donation that way. But I don't really care if you guys donate or not. I'm glad you guys are watching and asking questions. That's the most important thing. So, so Rabbi, it's good to see you again. I'll see you in 2 weeks, and I'll see you guys all in 2 weeks again with Rabbi Coffman. We'll pick up the topic on this tail end of divorce, and if we run out of things, if we run out of conversation, then we'll incorporate another topic during that show, so we can at least give you a full hour. Okay, so
you forget who you're speaking to. We're gonna run out of things to talk about. I don't think so. I think there's plenty more to talk about. We'll find something. Don't worry. If we're not, send in your questions to him and don't blow up my system.
There you go. You're the only person who's ever blown up my system twice, mind you, twice. Cut it out already.
I got the power.
Oh, man. Okay, signing out, guys. We'll see you on the other side. Today's Wednesday. My next show will be roughly 10 days from now. Rabbi Singer will be the first one. You may be surprised and find an Isaiah topic coming up sooner than then, because I'm going to give him pre-recorded intros, so maybe he can actually push out the Isaiah chapter 8, I think it is. So keep your eyes open for that. Otherwise, it'll be we're going to move into Let's Get Biblical Q&A, and then the following Wednesday we'll be back with Rabbi Coffman again. So thank you all for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you all again, like I said, on the other side. Take care. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, Rabbi. Love you, man.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.